What up, though? So, hopefully, we are now at the final fourth installment of Drake versus UMG. I wonder if it took longer to get through this particular complaint because there was so much there. I'm hoping that with others and other lawsuits and what have you, or just topics in general, I don't have to do 4 parts. I can do maybe 1 or 2 parts. But with this, there was so much just going on in society. Man, f- that. It was just so much going on between Drake and Kendrick. I was like, man, I got to throw this in. And when you've been into hip hop this long, when you've been in the entertainment business this long, when you have just been following these careers and the beefs and the subs and it's like you can't avoid it, right? Because I don't with Twitter. Once Elon, first off, let me say this: once Elon bought Twitter, I stopped with it. And I'm not calling it X. X belongs to the Nation of Islam. X belongs to Malcolm X. X belongs to Generation X. It belongs to not a lot of other places besides Twitter. So anyway, so I don't follow all the subtweets, but you can't help but hear about it. So now that everything has finally culminated to this, I can't just say like 1 or 2 things and keep it moving. Otherwise, what am I really adding? And I remember thinking back because how many songs are there with Drake and Kendrick together? I know of one because it's Drake, Kendrick, ASAP, 2 Chainz. Who else is on that song? Because that, man, now it went so hard too. Beast. What was the name? Hold up. Let me do a little deep dive. Name of the song with Kendrick, Drake, and 2 Chainz. 2 Chainz. And I love spelling it with the Z too. Not 2 Chainz. 2 fucking problems. ASAP Rocky featuring Drake, 2 Chainz, and Kendrick Lamar. Now, if they had J. Cole on that joint too, it'd be beyond the trifecta. And 2 Chainz, I don't know if he ever had a verse for that because we only heard him on the chorus. And I always wondered, I need to do a Wikipedia on this one day. I always wondered that 2 Chainz have a verse and the verse was, probably hot because I like 2 Chainz verses, but that line was so dope. There was like, no. Some producer said, whoever produced this, like we should make it into the hook for the entire song. I don't know, but whatever the case, when this was out back in, that's 12 years ago, 2012, we didn't know who of this group was really going to ascend and become like the top MC. Because if you think about it, Cole is not even on this song. At the time, it's Drake, it's Kendrick. Who else was in the mix? And ASAP. Those can't remember if Wale was on point then. But whatever the case, we were trying to see. And but anyway, there's so much that I can say about this that I'm not going to really get into right now. But at that point, we did not know. And so to be doing this like all these years later, and it's like, it's lawsuits, it's Super Bowl performances, it's claims of defamation or what have you. It's like, it's interesting. So we're going to start at paragraph 167 right now. We got 20 pages to get through. Let's do it. Members of the public believe and repeat the false allegations. Members of the public have taken the allegations in the defamatory material to be statements of fact, even after Drake's public and private denials. Now, I don't know what a private denial is because I don't know how the public will be exposed to the private denials, but okay. The law in regards to I get why they would put that there because the law in regards to defamation was written at a time when we didn't have social media, where you may have a village, right? And I don't assume that American jurisprudence or just Western jurisprudence is where we came up with these rules. These are rules that are indicative of human society. And so we go all the way back to Africa. You can't just go around, in villages, whether those villages are in Europe or those villages are in Africa, and start, just telling people, at some point somebody said, yo, we got to do something so people are not just running around telling lies on other people. We got to make a punishment for that lying. We got to do that. So, but that being the case, Drake, according to his complaint, has, issued private denials. On April 30th, 2024, less than a week before the release of the recording, UMG released another song by Kendrick Lamar, Euphoria, that threatened that he won't tell truth. Whoa, they got this in here. That threatened that he won't tell truths about Drake if Drake don't tell no lie about me. And oh God, this is my, I know this word, ominous, but they got a ly on there, which is a modifier, right? So I can say ominous, ominously. There we go. Stated that he know some shit about Drake. Oh God, I said I was going to look up these attorneys so I could refer to them how I had been referring to them. Let me do it now. Let me do it now because I like the nickname. Hold up. Let me get all the way back to the top so I can figure out what nickname that I give these attorneys. Oh, they're not in the caption, so I got to go to the bottom of this joint. Where we at? It was Michael, Maryland. What name could I have come up with? I got 3M, so I'm going to call him 3M. Yeah, 3M. That's what I'm going to call him. So, yeah, 3M. Yeah. So, what 3M did in this right here is hilarious. Because I imagine, and of course, like I said before, I do not know these attorneys and their affiliation with hip hop. I do not know that, but it's still funny. I would love to have been a post-it on the wall, not a fly, post-it on the wall, looking at all the other post-its. Then the one that says, know some shit about Drake. I would love to just be in the room to hear these discussions. I wouldn't be able to keep a serious face. So I would not be, like I said, I am glad this is not my case, but here we go. Because you think about this shit when you're in law school like this. When you're doing this, you're like, is this what I went to law school for? Is this what I went to law school for? Okay. Know some shit about Drake. To the reasonable listener, any future allegations levied by Lamar against Drake would be based in truth, in undisclosed fact, not rumor or opinion. To the reasonable listener, any future allegations levied by Lamar against Drake would be based in truth and undisclosed fact, not rumor or opinion. They're not wrong about this. I would agree with that interpretation. Yes, I would agree with that interpretation. Now, I don't know to what extent someone can claim that if I ever said, won't tell truths about you if you don't tell lies about me. How long does that extend? Let's say I said that 5 months ago, right? Okay. And now I'm saying something about you that isn't true, but it doesn't necessarily mean that the reasonable person, would a reasonable person believe, like, because I said that then, because then that means like, oh, he must be, still telling truths about this person now. I don't know, because I'm wondering how far does that extend? That said, on its face, it is a great allegation. I love it. And I didn't know if they were going to pull that, in, because it does change it changes the entire tone of, it changes the interpretation by a reasonable person. And that's the standard in law. It's not based on what a crazed fan would think. It's not based on what someone who believes in any and every conspiracy theory would think. It's not based on a person who wears their feelings on their sleeve and just believes whatever. No, it's based on what the reasonable person believe that. Now, what a reasonable person is, even while we were in law school and even while practicing, we never come up with, oh, a reasonable person is X, right? What a reasonable person is, and it can change over time. A reasonable person is one who we see as normal in logic, belief, thinking, and unfortunately, I hate to define the word, reasoning, right? That's what we think. We think of this person as someone who is logical to an extent. They don't have to be logical where, they can, go and teach a philosophy course on logic, but it's like, it's a reasonable person versus an irreasonable or a mentally challenged person who can't reason, or someone who is under the influence of something. That's not a reasonable person. Now, I will, like I love to do, I do not assume I know all the law at all times. So I believe in checking. So I'm going to check, what is the reasonable person definition? You don't have to be that on point with chat a lot of times. Okay, I love this term that they use. They said the reasonable person standard is a legal concept used to determine how an average prudent individual would act. We're going to replace act with think in certain circumstances. Now, we can get into the weeds with this. I'm not going to do it. But that being said, a reasonable listener would think that all the records that follow are going to be true records. A reasonable listener would believe that all of the records that followed this statement are alleging true things about Drake. That's an easy one. Yes, they would think that. That can make the case, but you also have to consider that Drake kind of said, hey, talk about him liking young girls. That's if the tailor-made freestyler was actually Drake. So I can't very well tell. So you could argue like you invited me to tell lies. But before we get to that, I'm going to have to say that is a very good allegation. Allegation 168 is really good and could make the case in and of itself. Immediately after the release of the recording and image, people all over the internet began repeating the allegations against Drake, believing them to be statements of fact. These posts number in at least the hundreds of thousands. Yeah, I think that's true. Yeah. As one user put it, this isn't a diss. It's the truth. The culture isn't just now with, oh my God, I love this so much. Wait, it's not fucking with. I interpreted that, and then they have it in parentheses. So as one user put it, I don't know how to read text slang though. I don't know how to read that. Well, here we go. This isn't a diss. It's truth. The culture isn't just not FW with Drake. It's correcting itself by kicking out these predators, Drake, Diddy, etc. Another user wrote that the recording is telling the truth about Drake being a pedo. I'm not laughing at that. I have said it. I repeated it. It's not funny. But there's this show. I don't know if I mentioned it. This British show, Peep Show. And they talked about being a pedo. It's a hilarious show. That being said, I thought about that. Anyway, other users echoed the same. Drake has more than 800,000 dislikes on that song because everybody believe he loves touching children. Because we have evidence everywhere. Let me say this, because this is something that if this were to go to trial, this is going to come up. I have seen the allegations, or I don't even know what to call these things that are online where you see people saying, oh, Drake has a inappropriate relationship with this young woman, with that young woman, or what have you. They're not saying he's having sex with them. They're saying in the articles that I read that it was said that, oh, he has some relationship, whether it's a friendship or whatever, but why is he friends with them? I cannot say that even before the song, I cannot say that there was evidence everywhere that Drake likes touching children, because children has a different meaning to it than touching. If it were alleged that Drake was touching women who are still in their teens, 18, 19, or what have you, that's very different than a child. When I hear this, that, oh, he's touching children, I think of someone 14, 15. I think of somebody, well, I think I don't think of a 17-year-old. And it's not to say, I know that that's, illegal depending on, where you are. Yeah, people get real freaked out when they actually start looking up the ages of consent in various places. I'm not going to do that. I can talk about that on another show on this one. So that's not what I think. If I think about like really young children is what I think. And if you're 3M, if they take this to trial, they may say that to, substantiate their claims of how damaging this is. And I don't think that they would be off to say that and to quote these things. Oh, and here are some other comments about the song. I love this song. We would have never known Drake is a whole. Damn, this is so, oh God, this is so Black culture. I love this song. We would have never known Drake is a whole pedophile if this information wasn't exposed. Now, I will tell you this. I got to give 3M props on this too, because this a black attorney would pull this one out to put in here. This is all good stuff. This is the stuff that should be in there, not trying to make Kendrick seem like he's anti-Semitic. That's bullshit. That's the type of shit that turns people against Drake. But this right here, this is the type of stuff that engenders, if not sympathy, it makes you feel like, yo, I see where he's coming from. Respect and love you, Kendrick, for keeping it 100. 100 emoji, one of my favorite emojis. We need some new emojis too. Man, I'm tired of using the same damn emojis. I know all the Apple users is like, we got plenty of emojis. Android needs some more emojis. From your tone, anger, and passion behind your words, there's no doubt on my mind. Wait. On my end. Oh, my end. Okay. Let me go back. Because I'm anticipating certain words so I can keep good eye contact with y'all. But it's like, I got to remember, they're pulling this from Twitter and posts. So, hell, when you post and you're not trying to use perfect grammar, because you need that apostrophe so you can get your whole shit off. So, okay. Respect and love you, Kendrick, for keeping it 100. From your tone, anger, and passion behind your words, there's no doubt on my end that Drake is indeed a pedophile. Damn. Okay. Wow. Kendrick just exposed Drake, lowercase, of running with pedos and sex offenders. I didn't know. I don't think Kendrick is dumb to make false accusations. They put that in bold. And they also put exposed in bold. I like that. I don't want to assume without proof, but shit ain't looking good for Drake. I feel like he's still holding some shit back and ain't saying everything he knows about Drake. I think everybody felt like that. I like to believe that I am at the very minimum a reasonable person. Let me see. Let's make sure I'm a reasonable person, because it is a hypothetical individual. Okay. Do I exercise ordinary care, judgment, and caution in everyday situations? I act with common sense and make rational decisions based on facts available, follow societal norms and expectations for behavior, considers foreseeable risks, and takes appropriate precautions. Man, this is funny because hell, I don't feel like most Trump supporters fit this. I don't feel like most Americans fit this anymore. to be honest, I think the majority of black people do. I'm not sure about the majority of white people. Oh wow, that's crazy. Anyway, oh. I feel like he's holding. I did feel like that listening to Not Like Us and what have you. That he was holding some shit back. Maybe, yeah, just in case. But even from a strategic point of view, I felt that Kendrick might be holding something back only because Drake might make a record. He could have made a record and it was hotter than Not Like Us. And then it's like, oh, Kendrick might have needed someplace else to go. He might have had another one, as they say, in the tuck. Stash somewhere. He could have, get mustard and do some more. I don't know, but I did feel like he was holding back, which also lends credence to those who are saying, hey, I feel like he was holding back, and this is just the truth he told, where it's like worse stuff. And so that lends credence to the defamation claim, because it's like, I think this nigga got more. He just told us a little, right? Okay. Many people reacted to the image, which depicts Drake's Toronto residence and 13 sexual predator icons. You know what? I didn't think about that either, because now this is the thing, because somebody said in this last quote, Kendrick just exposed Drake of running with pedos and sex offenders. Now, if it's 13 sexual predator icons, that means the insinuation is that Drake is running with 13. Well, assuming that he is included in that with 12 other pedophiles. I didn't even think about this. But now one user asked, who are the 13 pedophiles at Park Lane Circle? Y'all, that shit's funny right there. Internet undefeated. That's funny. And then they put the eyes wide emoji. So they put two of them, demonstrating that they believe the image to be accurately depicting who lived or spent some time in the home. False. Now, I was with 3M up to that point. The picture itself might, but this, who are the 13 pedophiles at Park Lane Circle? No, that's just the internet getting this shit off. That is not an accurate representation of what a reasonable person believes. Others reacted similarly to UMG's initial publication of the recording and image to YouTube. Just realized the thumbnail is from the Sex Predators app. But that's not saying anything. That because anyone can put that together. You could argue like, yo, nobody thinks that he is that this is an official demarcation of a sexual predator. One, it's in Canada. So that's a good argument for UMG, where it's in Canada. So they probably have different markers. Let's check. Let's see. Does Canada use the same sexual predator markers online as the U.S.? Canada and the U.S. have two different ways of going about this. I'm going to try to pronounce the last name. The Drew Drew National Sex Offender Public Website, NSOPW, provides public access to information about registered sex offenders nationwide. This resource allows individuals to search for offenders by name, location, or other criteria, offering details such as names, photographs, and addresses. In contrast, Canada maintains the National Sex Offender Registry, which is not accessible to the public. Okay, so that is an argument for UMG to say that, hey, a reasonable person might even look up to see like, yo, in Canada. How do they do this in Canada? Right? This house is in Canada. They don't do it in the US the same way. It's not even public information in Canada. That is a possibility. That's a possibility. Okay. Oh my God. Is that a sex offender map on Drake's house? Nah. That many pedos in one spot is crazy. Drake canceled. And they did put this in bold, and I must admit that was in all caps, whoever posted that, unless they changed it. But I would imagine whoever posted that put it in all caps. Drake housing a bunch of pedos at his house, nervous laughing with sweat emoji. Yo, sex offenders have to register red. Means sexual assault against a minor. Drake has 13 of them. See, I think these are people getting their jokes off at this point, but there could be a serious person amongst them. It could be. So Drake's pedo mansion, those are the markers used to show pedos that live next to you, kids. People all over the internet also question why Drake had not yet been arrested and called for the police, the FBI, the CIA. The CIA don't even deal with this, as well as Child Protective Services, to investigate the statements in the recording. I don't think that's wrong, though. I don't think that's wrong for people to hear the song and call for investigations. Because if it's... Because now we're outside of the song, where if somebody is saying this happened and it's somebody of Kendrick's stature who may have inside knowledge. Now, see the problem, you see the reasoning that's going on there? You see what's going on there? As I'm reasoning through this, and this is the same thing that juries and triers of fact do, I'm like, well, wait a second. If I'm a listener and Kendrick says this, do I think it might be true? And if I think it might be true, should I call for investigations? The problem here is the fact that people are calling for investigations and shit makes it seem like they think it might be true or could possibly be true. And when it comes to the standard in which somebody, let me check before I say what I'm about to say. Okay, that's the thing, the question that I was struggling with. I'm like, it only has to be possible that they believe their belief. They only have to believe that the claim is possible. And here, hell, I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie. Hearing it, I thought it was possible. But what if they thought it was possible before Kendrick even said that, where they already believe like, yeah, if it came out that Drake was a pedophile, I would believe that shit. That could be helpful in that that could be very helpful, because even with defamation per se, I don't know. I need to check that. With defamation per se, typically it's enough for the thing to be said. In certain jurisdictions, it's enough for it to be said, but you don't have to prove actual damages. It's just enough for it to be said. If we're doing a defamation, I only have to doing a defamation per se claim. But in a defamation claim, you have to prove actual damages. So here, the fact that it's possible, again, is enough for defamation per se. We don't need actual harm, although I'm sure Drake will be able to show some harm. And we have a statement that is defamatory on its face. And we have enough to substantiate that people believe that it could be possible. But they believed it beforehand. That's the point I got to get back to. I think people believed it beforehand. Maybe not as to a wide extent. Maybe that has grown, but I think they believed in that possibility beforehand. So if they believed in that possibility beforehand, but it doesn't need to be damaged. So it depends, again, on which claim the jury is trying to decide upon. If they're trying to decide upon defamation, then Drake may have a more difficult, it may be a bit more difficult for him to substantiate the claims. Yeah, because they already believed it beforehand. So it's hard to say your reputation's been damaged, but if it's defamation per se, it doesn't even matter. Okay. Let's see what else we got here. People all over the internet also question why Drake had not been arrested. Okay, we did that. Oh, these are the statements. The FBI needs to come at this point. Laughing emoji. But that negates it. It's a joke. They don't necessarily mean that. The caged owl got me truly believing Kendrick know Drake going to prison possibly. Well, that is somebody who says they truly believe that the caged owl got them believing. Well, this just says that they believe that Kendrick believes that Drake is going to jail. That's the other side. Hey, Kendrick, don't diss Drake. It's a waste of time. Just call the cops, and snitching Drake is pedophile. So Drake go to jail and you can win. Bye. thumbs up emoji. Yeah, again, joke. Hide your children from Drake. Joke. Maybe not. Because I remember once I had many arguments with people about Cosby. And one person in particular, he was like, really like, oh, he didn't do it. And I know Cosby's out of jail. I believe he did it. But he was like, yeah, he didn't do it. And this is before Cosby went to jail. And I told him he was going to jail. And he was like, oh, yeah, really, really down. I was like, would you let your daughter go over there? He's like, hell no. So that statement reminds me of that. If what Kendrick is saying is true, Drake needs to be locked up. I don't see a problem with that statement, because this, if anything, is questioning it. And given some of the things that Drake said, that could be reversed. Somebody could have very well tweeted the same thing about what they said about Kendrick in domestic violence or what have you. So Drake just needs to be locked up. Yo, I'm about to call Child Protective Services because this is abuse. Wait, but this is the thing. That could be someone saying this is abuse what Kendrick is doing to Drake. Not necessarily saying that, calling the police on Drake. Drake's number one op is Child Protective Services. That's a joke and the shit's funny. At this point, CIA and FBI need to step in. Oh, they got another one. And I like the step this way, step that way. Are we locked in? I picture Drake getting locked behind bars. Again, I think these are jokes. Yeah, some of them could substantiate like, oh, people are believing this, but some of them is just the internet getting its jokes off. Some comments went so far as to specifically reference Drake's 7-year-old son by name. It's scary if what Kendrick said is true about Drake. Mother of Adonis, save your child. I don't think this is serious still. I just think that's I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't reference somebody's child. That's me and trying to get jokes off. But, the internet is relentless when it comes to, habitually crossing lines. Adonis gets to play with the trap kids in Drake's mansion when he does good. Now, I'm not going to lie. I'm reading that. Outside of the fact that it's about Drake's son, it is very funny. It is. I just would not say it. And that's why I didn't laugh at it, because I'm like, that's actually funny. It's just not a joke that I would say. I don't think Drake can even attempt to parent Adonis anymore, crying emoji. And an especially vowed, oh, damn. That's tough. That's tough. And I don't know did they just find these, or are these things that Drake read himself and he was like, man, this is fucked up. I don't know. This last one is so bad, I don't even want to read it. So this is what I'm going to do, because this last one is really bad. I'm going to read this, but if you don't want to hear it, skip forward maybe 10 seconds, 30 seconds, because I'm going to probably have a reaction to it. So like 30 seconds. In an especially vile post, someone wrote, I bet Drake touches Adonis too. That's real up. That's real up. And I suspect that as a father that hurt him, you know? And yeah, that's a tough one. It is. And you have to be careful when, you know, I don't know if it's the name, seeing that there, where I'm like, that's especially up. Oh, it wouldn't have been much better if he didn't say the name. At the same time, on a whole nother full stop, it makes me think about the allegations that Kendrick's child wasn't his child. You know, that's the type of shit too that should not be there. You know, that shouldn't be. I would. It's a rap battle, true. It's a rap battle, but I don't know. When the rap battles got like this, because Tupac never questioned paternity of any of Biggie's children, even though he said, "I f*** your wife." He didn't say, "I'm not," and I don't know if they had kids at that point or what have you. I don't know. I don't know to what extent what is crossing the line, but that shit, and that's of course not Kendrick did not say this. This is someone online who said it, but I don't like it. I think it for sure crosses a line. Many posters turn to racial and religious slurs against Drake, who is mixed race and Jewish. For example, users on YouTube and X. Now, let me say this. For me, and maybe this was beforehand, I don't know. I saw that Nazi salute move that Elon said was not Nazi salute. And I'm like, the owner of Twitter, it's from my vantage point, is doing Nazi shit, anti-Semitic shit. So I find this part really interesting, really interesting. And I think I saw someone, I think it was, I can't remember his name, but he was on Friends talking about kicking Kanye off for saying anti-Semitic things to Elon. Now, I'm not mad. I don't want to call him Ross, because what black people do when you play on a show, you Ross for life. That's who you are. You Ross. So Ross is asking Elon. I'm like, motherfucker, Elon was doing Nazi salutes. We saw it. So how are you asking him to kick somebody off for being anti-Semitic? Leave Twitter. Just leave it. That's what we do it. Just leave Twitter. Why are you even there? Anyway, somebody called Drake he a pedo Jew boy. I don't think these are Kendrick fans. I think these are people who already got anti-Semitic leanings, and this can't be attributed to Kendrick, because Kendrick ain't say nothing about Drake being Jewish. This is ridiculous. So now we hit another point where I'm like, with 3M, Black attorney is not letting you put this in. I'm gonna be like, stop it. No, you don't need that. It waters down the claim. You know goddamn well nobody is about to come at Kendrick and say he's anti-Semitic because he's coming at yo ass. That's not about to happen, bro. So let's just stop it. But, anyway, Drake's Jew protection pedo team will get him off. I'll say it. Them Jews are the colonizers. That's who Drake represents. We got to take our music back from those devils. On a deeper level, they not like us. Understand, Drake is a Khazarian Jew. If you knew the history, you know that they stole the identity of the true biblical Semitic Israelites, us, and are claiming to be Jewish people today. So when Kendrick says you're not a colleague, you're a colonizer, it goes much deeper than rap. I don't believe this. I really don't. I really don't. Drake, stop by Compton's Tam #21 with the homie for some burgers and to call at Drake a Jewish pedophile. I had to do it to him. #not like us at Kendrick Keek. Shout out Rosecrans. And bro, Drake is a colonizer because he is Jewish. That's what it says. And they put it all in caps in bold letters. I don't like this. This is dirty. This dirty in a way that's not hip hop. This dirty in a way that makes us say you not like us because you trying to make Kendrick out to be anti-Semitic, and you know that's not why he's coming at you. That's not it. You know that's not why. And so this is my like, no, don't do this. And this is why I leave the case. I wouldn't be a part of no case where they're doing no shit like this. Just not gonna do it. Nope. And before people say, no, you can't turn down, I've turned down more. I promise you, I turned down more. So in a May 10th, 2024 recording of the It Been a Minute show produced by National Public Radio, host Brittany Luce discussed the allegations in the recording. Muse Luce, yeah, I think that's right. Discussed the allegations in the recording with NPR music reporter Sydney Madden and writer Tiharka Love. They understood the recording to be linking Drake and his alleged criminal behavior to other famous figures who were revealed to the public as sexual predators and later convicted for their crimes, such as rapper R. Kelly. Ms. Madden insinuated that the allegations could be true. It could be. I don't believe that they are, but they still could be true. And never forget, truth is the ultimate defense. Now, I don't believe it, but when you start talking about possibilities, could it be true? Hell yeah, it could be true. But I don't think that it is. But I don't think that Kendrick was saying something. When Kendrick said pedophile, I didn't take it literally. I thought he meant the allegations that we had all seen online regarding Drake's friendships with younger women. That's it. That's what I thought. Now, that being said, here we are. Now, Miss Madden insinuated that the allegations could be true, commenting that so much dirt has been unearthed to love. The allegations rose to the level of warranting an investigation because while this sort of behavior, parentheses meaning sexual behavior, is in our faces for a lot of different industries, it is unusual for the allegations to come from contemporaries. That's real talk. It is. And it's not only unusual, it's unfortunate that it doesn't more. There's too much protectionism going on in every industry. For instance, if I think a lawyer does some work or something like that, people expect for me not to say it, right? If I think a writer has wrote something, I was like, man, it's terrible. People expect for me not to say it. If I think like somebody did a terrible business presentation, like I'm shitting on their slides or I'm shitting on their business plan. It's like, oh man, you shouldn't do that. I find that the protectionism in industries, especially the law enforcement industry, to be dangerous, and it leaves us in a position where those who receive the services are harmed. Often in legal sphere, we will say, oh, I'm sure, they're competent. I don't want competent. That's the thing. I don't want competent. I want masterful. I want elite. I want excellence. That's what I'm looking for. I often hear this was like, I saw a meme the other day. Yeah, I'm on a tangent. I'm gonna get back to this, where someone it wasn't a meme. Somebody tweeted that it was something to the effect of, we need to put competent white men in these jobs and stop placating minorities and women. As if minorities and women can't be competent and white men are automatically competent. And the fact that this dude, I think it was a dude, tweeted this, says to me that he's okay with competent, while I find women, minorities, we're looking for excellence. The people who are, and those white people who are allies are looking for excellence, elite, masterful. And a lot of these white dudes can't compete with that. That's really what we're getting to in America now, where I've read a book where they said back in up until the 90s, no, up until probably the 2000s, but it started to change in the 80s. This guy said, if you were a white guy, you had to have a plan to fail in order not to make it. I'm going to repeat that. You had to have a plan to fail in order not to make it, meaning that it was just paid. But now people are like, look, I want the best. And I'm willing to pay for it. So they're not just hiring white guys for the sake of hiring white guys. They're looking for excellence. So I'm going to stop because I'll get into a whole tangent. But it's good for contemporaries to call this out. I heard all the way back when I was in college about R. Kelly, that people would tell me that, dude be going up to, this is what they allege. And I don't know if this is true, but because, I went to a black school, so people from Chicago would be like, yeah, he'd be hanging around the high schools and shit. That's what they said. You need contemporaries. And I'm not saying this is true about Drake. I don't think it's true, but I like this line. You need contemporaries. When y'all hear some shit, say some shit. If you know this is going on, say some shit. Don't just be like, oh no, I'm gonna go make a record with them. No. There's so many. I already covered those people making records with R. Kelly. I'm not gonna say it again. It's so many people who did it though. Why were you doing that? You saw that video. If you didn't see it, you heard about it. Why would you do that? Why? Ostracize them. Don't work with them. But you don't have contemporaries doing that across, and it's not just in entertainment. It's across a plethora of industries, and we need to do that more. And because we want police to do it, we want police to be like, "Yo, that right there, he dirty. That right there, he be abusing people. That he be assaulting people. We want them to do it. So, and we should keep pushing them to do it. And when we see wrong in our own industries, we need to say something. Contemporaries. The podcast positioned the recording as having the potential to be a tipping point for a Me Too movement in the world of hip hop. That is, and I would take it, I don't know the person, but I will say they qualify, I believe, as a reasonable person. And it sounds, now it could be that, because I think this was a pod, could be she just podding. If you don't know what that means she don't really believe that, but she's trying to give a take that said that will be provocative, Yeah. Luce explicitly asked her guests whether they considered the allegations in the recording to be art or cause for an actual criminal investigation. Miss Madden answered by pointing to the trial of rapper Young Thug, who did I don't know if you call that settle, plea bargain. Yeah. Who was recently criminally prosecuted in Georgia on RICO charges in a case where the prosecution relied heavily on rap lyrics as evidence. That's another thing. That's the two-edged sword of of using rap lyrics in court, where now it's bleeding into a civil context, where of course the rap lyrics are the subject or the cause of the civil disagreement. But that being said, that's a good point. Other celebrities have suggested the possible truth of the allegations during his set at a May 7th, 2024 charity event. Actor and comedian Seth Rogen commented on how Drake must feel now that people are dancing to a song that calls him a sexual predator. Oh, okay. I read that wrong. Seth Rogen commented on how Drake must feel. Yeah, that don't mean he believe it. He just believe it. He's just saying, how do you feel? Shit. It could be a song that calls you a Martian. That doesn't mean, now, don't get me wrong. Drake may be pissed, he may be hurt, and all the other things. But that doesn't necessarily believe that Seth Rogen thought that he was an actual pedophile. Mr. Rogan said, could you imagine going to a club and seeing a room full of people dancing to a song about you being a pedophile? Hell no, that's hilarious. No, for everybody who's not Drake, especially if you were one. Damn, I was trying to give you some. I don't know if he is, but if he was, I assume that'd be a very alarming moment in your life. Oh no, they're on to me. Yes, that's just funny. That's a good ass joke. Others compare Drake to infamous people who have actually been charged and found guilty of sex crimes. In comments on UMG's initial publication of the recording and image to YouTube, users commented, Drake is a pedophile and a sexual abuser on the level of Weinstein, Diddy, and Epstein. And people like Drake, Weinstein, and Epstein using power and money to humiliate and terrorize and traffic and groom females and children. Commenters on the video repeated similar sentiments, such as, we have an anti-PDF anthem about time. They could just be talking about Adobe. They ain't got that. They ain't got to be talking about Drake. About time. No justice for guys like Diddy, Epstein, and Drake, and all the victims they cause, much less the Johns. I don't know what that means. Drake and all the victims they cause, much less the Johns. What the hell does that mean? Did I read that right? Whatever. Users characterize Drake of being just another Hollywood pedo. Believing the accusations, many listeners also repeated the calls for violence against Drake from the defamatory material. In the comment sections of UMG's first publication of the recording and video on YouTube, users made threats. Drake not going to be able to touch down in Cali going forward. Somebody gonna Biggie Smalls him. Homies out here don't tolerate pedophilia. Not even joking. Now, when somebody say not even joking and they write it out, how whoever it is wrote this out, I don't think that is joking. I think they're serious. I really do. And when people were laughing about what happened to Rick Ross, and I am not a fan of no, I take that back. Rick Ross makes some music. I don't like that whole being a prison guard thing and pretending you're not and all that. It's one of the few things that I thought 50 Cent was right about. But that being said, I didn't like what happened to Rick Ross when he went to perform and got into that fight. And I can't remember if Drake retweeted or something like that, something about that. But I was like, yeah, that shit is funny because Ross is alive and what have you, but you got to go to Miami. You got to go to California. And I was like, maybe he's not worried about that. Maybe he knows something about those places that I don't know. I don't know. It's entirely possible. But I didn't like it. And I was like, as much as I don't want these beefs to turn into like that, because we've all seen what happens when that happens. And I'm not even talking about just Drake and Tupac and Biggie or what have you. If you grow, shit get real quick, and you can't pull the bullets back. You can't bring life back when it's gone. So I get this part. I don't think this dude is joking. Drake better come with Secret Service type security if he plans on going through LA. And even then, that might not be enough. They not like us laughing emojis. I don't think that person is serious. Drake can never go to LA without Secret Service level security now. I don't think that's untrue. Yeah. But I don't think it's because he was alleged to be a pedophile. I think that's what 3M is trying to say, but I don't think that's why. On X, the references to violence continued. This is one of those situations where you kind of just got to... Oh, damn. Okay. I don't really want to read this, but this is in the complaint. This is one of those situations where you kind of just got to kill yourself if you are Drake. I don't like that because, and this is the thing, because if something had happened, if Drake had did harm to himself or something like that, the internet, yeah, you would have some cheering, but I don't want that. I don't even want to put that on somebody's head. I don't even want to put that on the universe. That's just not cool. Other commenters reveled in the idea of Drake suffering from sexual assault in prison. Even nerds know if you're messing with kids, you don't do good in jail. And everyone is dancing to Drake being a pedo, getting violated in prison. Belief in the truth of the defamatory material persisted in direct responses to Drake's denial of the claims in The Heart Part 6. And we know you drop in 6 minutes after, so instead of posting my address, you have a lot to address. Drizzy retweeted, I don't care what they say, you'll always be in the big three in my book. Oh, and then they put a picture of the big three, Harvey Epstein, Drake, Epstein, Weinstein, and Drake. And they have Drake holding up a Toronto Police Department 10/24/19 arrest. I don't think Drake has been arrested because I know in the complaint they allege that. Let me make sure because I think it could just be AI. Drake ever been arrested? Let's see what we get here. No. I didn't know there was a lawsuit where rapping Forte, I like Forte, claimed Drake misused his lyrics in the song "Who Do You Love," resulting in $100,000 settlement. That's what's up. I like that. I like the settlement, and Drake just saying, "No, this rapping Forte, I'm not about to fight you. How much you want?" What have you. That's cool. Let's see what we got here. The social media reaction described in paragraphs 170 to 184 are just a tiny slice of the public vitriol caused by UMG's defamation of Drake. I believe that is true. The spewing of hate against Drake has not been limited to social media. The public has leveraged multiple other platforms to repeat the lies in the defamatory material. For example, users have edited the address that appears on Google Maps and Apple Maps. I didn't even know there was an Apple Maps. And I remember I thought Apple Maps were shitty. And that's why you just use Google. But it could have gotten better. I don't know. Apple Maps at Drake's Toronto address to read, pedophiles live here and he touches little girls. That's up. That's up. In the summer of 2024, users updated the description of Drake's Toronto address in rideshare applications, Uber and Lyft. Users edited the address to read Drizzy touches kids, Drizzy's fun time chamber. Their fun time chamber is funny. And a minor, that one's fine. Less than a month after UMG published the recording and image, author Martin Vidal published an article titled "The Drake-Kendrick Rap Beef: A Case Study of Mob Psychology." Oh, I'm curious. I wonder what he said. Mr. Vidal explains that mob mentality is a psychological state that causes people to abandon nuance, label anyone who defends the accused as being guilty of the same actions of the accused, reward those who perpetuate their cause, and do bad in the name of doing good, even when accusations are made without supplying any evidence. Mr. Vidal concludes that the public reaction to the allegations against Drake were classic mob mentality, citing the shooting and other trespass instances of vandalism at Drake's OVO stores and overwhelming negative public outcry. Mr. Vidal explains that mob mentality is why people can believe the allegations despite the fact that Drake has never been accused of inappropriate behavior with a minor or something similar like grooming. Now, I'm not saying these allegations are true, but before Kendrick said what Kendrick said, are we saying that no one accused Drake of grooming? I read stuff in regards to like similar to the what did they call them? They called them something the social media reaction. I have seen social media reaction where people accused Drake of grooming. So I'm going to read this. Let me finish okay. Inappropriate behavior with a minor or something similar to like grooming by any underage or formerly underage person he has interacted with, or their families or their acquaintances, and just about every alleged victim of such has come out in defense of Drake. The only thing, if they didn't put grooming in there, I would agree with this, but it's a good paragraph. It's a good paragraph, but I don't know how true it is. And then you have the modifier about just about every alleged victim. Whenever people start qualifying, I'm like, well, you might not want to say it if you have to qualify it, unless you suspect that somebody is not going to read it, right? Read the whole thing. Now, according to Mike Rothschild, an author and expert on conspiracy theories, accusations of pedophilia, yeah, are particularly ripe for conspiracies. He describes the allegations of child abuse cause people to immediately just lose their minds, even if these children don't exist. And even if you put out the suggestion there, it grabs a hold in a way that is difficult to dislodge. Mr. Rothschild also notes that social media exacerbates conspiracy theories because the spread of information or disinformation can happen so much more rapidly than in the analog age. That's true. Yeah, it goes quickly. Yeah, I don't disagree with any of that. And I think it does have a bearing on this lawsuit, because it helps to further define what the reasonable person is. And by the way, it used to be the reasonable man, and now it's the reasonable person, which I like much more. UMG's conduct caused Drake reputational, financial, physical, and emotional harm. UMG's publications have caused Drake reputational, financial, physical, and emotional harm. And all of these harms were reasonably foreseeable. I don't think that's untrue. I don't think that's untrue. I will want to give you a little tidbit about writing. This is good writing in that you want to do your subheading. You want to give the reader something that if they scan, they can remember it. And then when you start your allegations or what have you, you want to state that again and add a little to it. One, I say, so the reader doesn't feel like they waste their fucking time reading something twice, right? So anyway, the Economist and YouGov polled Americans about their views of Drake in August 2023 and in May 2024. Shortly after the release of the recording and image, Drake's favorability rating dropped by 11%, while his unfavorability rating rose 13%. As of May 2024, Drake was now less popular in the United States than Joe Biden and Donald Trump. And you ain't got no motherfucking right to be popular. That's not even to me, that's not a significant increase if you're trying to say, yo, you calling me a pedophile made my favorability rating drop and my unfavorability rating rise. Not really all that big. As a public figure, Drake's reputation is paramount to his career and is directly related to his financial success. UMG's purposeful spread of the defamatory material unquestionably caused Drake reputational harm. Because of UMG's defamation, millions of people all over the world now associate Drake with pedophilia and sexual violence against children. I don't think that's untrue. Yeah, I think that's true. If you could look at me, you probably could tell you about to say something, Demetrius. I was going to say, you said talk about him liking young girls. He did. There we are. You should have gave a nigga better instructions and say it like this. Every time I think of Aubrey, now I just sing certified lover boy, certified pedophile in my head. Drake may or may not recover from this, but either way, shit's never going to be the same for him after this song. He can't escape it. Creepy pedo ass. Don't think his rap career is dead, but enough questions have been asked, so there should be notable impact on his career. Yeah. What am I supposed to tell my kids when they ask me if these allegations are true? You're supposed to answer. Shit. You mean you're supposed to tell them? They don't even know Kendrick's music well, but identified a feeling in Kendrick's music that resonated with their truth. There is THEIR if you're talking about something like people, right? If you're talking about there, THERE, like we're going there. And if you want to say like somebody like they are, that's THEY apostrophe RE. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Not for somebody who wrote a comment, saying for a friend who might need that. Whoever might need that. These words are scathing to any listener. I got some decisions to make after this because I can't play Drake in my car with this narrative floating around. Dangerous. Now, they didn't bold dangerous. They bold everything else, but I probably would have put dangerous in bold. Maybe they didn't want to do the whole thing. Let me see. Oh, yeah, they should have bold dangerous. Yeah, and they should have bold that. Oh, God, here we go. I don't want to be that guy, but I never took Drake seriously. He's Canadian. What the I got to do with it? The Weeknd's Canadian too. It's literally Canadian. Whatever. He was in Degrassi. That stuff makes it hard for me to take him seriously. I thought that's why I thought he was gonna say K-Dot. Kendrick went after him. Now that it's more serious than just Drake being fake. I'm like, wow, if I knew all this, I'd hate Drake too. This is checkmate for Drake, because how exactly do you respond to someone calling you a sociopath, a deadbeat, and a pedo? Did somebody call him a sociopath or a deadbeat? I don't know if that's what happened. As for KL, I just want to know how he found out some of these things and what took so long to call Drake out. Well, damn. That one was interesting because that person does seem like they really believe that Drake is a pedophile. Okay, here we go. This whole thing is beyond brutal at this point. Kendrick must truly fucking hate Drake for some reason. Makes me inevitably think there might be real merit to the pedophile claim. Sorry, Drake. Kendrick is literally making me think it. Jesus Christ. Talk about winning a rap beef. Laughing emojis. This reputational harm caused Drake financial harm in an amount to be proven at trial. UMG knew or should have known. I love that. They knew or should have known. One of the best things in law, because people will always be like, I didn't know. Well, you should have knew. That the statements it published about Drake would cause substantial harm, as the statements are inflammatory, wrongfully imputed criminal activity to him, and damaged Drake in his trade. The defamatory material has so severely damaged Drake's standing in his trade and community, that undoing the reputational harm caused will require a massive and expensive corrective campaign. Interesting. I don't know if I have ever seen a complaint where they say you can correct the reputational harm by spending money, because that's what I take this to mean. Now, I have seen complaints. Hold up, let me straighten myself. I have seen complaints where people ask for money damages, saying like, look, that's the only way that you can compensate me is with money damages. But I haven't seen a complaint where they say there could be a corrective campaign. Yeah, I haven't seen that. That's some new shit. It is not just the fact that the false allegations have spread to millions around the globe. It is also the intensity with which people believe the allegations, as evidenced by the events of May 7th, 2024, and pervasive online commentary. See, my thing is this. I don't believe that a corrective campaign would work. And I wouldn't have put this in here because it ain't going to work. You're not going to be able to make people unlearn what has been alleged. Changing people's minds, particularly about deeply held beliefs, takes repeated messaging from trusted sources. To be honest, it don't matter. It don't matter what kind of campaign you run. It ain't gonna work. It's just not gonna work. It doesn't matter. But I'm surprised they're going down this road to act like the shit matters. UMG knows and understands just how destructive false allegations of participating in criminal sexual acts against minors can be. When UMG and Sir Grange, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I should have been looked it up. I just didn't. When UMG and Sir Grange were accused of aiding and abetting P. Diddy's criminal sexual acts in 2024, they moved to dismiss the complaint and called the accusations offensively false allegations of criminal behavior that would be libelous per se. Hear that per se part? Hear that per se? Just want to make sure. Yeah. Okay. Before I start saying it out, per se means in and of itself, by itself. Like all you need is the statement. If not contained within a legal filing and knowingly and maliciously false and defamatory. If Sir Grange's words, that last phrase or last statement, that's about the litigation privilege, that if they had not filed a lawsuit and just went down the street and said this about UMG and Sir Grange, or just wrote it in the paper or wrote it as a post, it would be libelous, because defamation is spoken, libel is written. Now, eventually we may come up with something in between. And I know you're like, what's between libel? What's between written and spoken? I don't know. The way we are accelerating, there will be something in between, and we'll need a new law for that. In Sir Grange's words, a single lie can destroy a reputation of integrity, and that while it takes years to build a reputation, it can be ruined in 5 minutes. This has been a refrain. I like it. UMG's conduct has also caused Drake physical and emotional harm. UMG's publication was the proximate cause of the violence against Drake in early May. Following this violence, I don't disagree with that. Yeah, I don't think if that song in the beef with Kendrick doesn't happen, I suspect Drake's friend wouldn't have been shot, the security guard, and people may not have tried to break into the home. So I think those things are true. Yeah. Following this violence, Drake made lasting changes to his life, including increasing security for himself and family anywhere they go. Now, I will say this, that is also an expense. So in seeking damages, you could claim that now Drake has to have, what do you call that? Security, extra security for life. And he should be compensated in order to meet that burden. Basically, Drake shouldn't have to pay for extra security. UMG should for the rest of his life. With respect to his family, now, of course, they wouldn't pay the bill each month. What would happen is they would figure out, okay, how much would it cost to give Drake security for the rest of his life? Then what you do is you say, okay, you would discount that. So let's say his security is $10,000 a month. You would take those cash flows, $10,000 a month, all the way until whatever age you think Drake is going to pass or no longer need security. Okay. Then you discount that back to present day terms and pay out that settlement. I'm not getting into what it means to discount. It'd be too much. Do it a different time. But you would discount the cash flows and then give him the settlement in that amount. The threat of violence continues to weigh on Drake. With respect to his family, Drake temporarily took his son out of school and away from the Toronto area along with Drake's mother for security concerns. And to this day, Drake experiences anxiety, worrying about the physical safety of his 7-year-old son and mother. I get that. Yeah, I don't think those things are untrue. UMG deceived the public and caused Drake harm. UMG's deceptive business practices including providing undisclosed financial benefits to third parties to promote the defamatory material, were consumer-oriented, deceived the public, and caused Drake financial harm. As described above, UMG knowingly provided covert financial benefits to third parties, including to use bots to stream the recording. UMG then knowingly promoted the success of the recording and defamatory material and used that success to leverage more sales and deals. UMG never disclosed these payments to the consumers. Now, if the allegations in this complaint are true, that, in addition to being actionable, possibly criminal, is up. It is. And that's the part that I am most interested in. And so now, after all this background, we're finally getting to the claims. Not yet, almost there. These covert tactics cause Drake harm. Stream manipulation, like UMG's purchase of fake streams on Spotify and other platforms, harm the artists like Drake, who collect royalties through legitimate streams, because there is a sharp increase in the number of streams recorded on the platform without a proportional increase in the number of paying subscribers. But my thing is this. I'm going to read this probably twice. My thing is this. If Spotify is okay with that, what's the outside of the legal ramifications, I mean, possible criminal payola charges, outside fraud charges in regards to consumers believing like, oh, this is really the best song and these streams are real. I mean, outside of that, Spotify is not bitching about not having more paying subscribers unless Drake somehow gets money based on paying subscribers from Spotify. I don't think that's the case. I don't know what UMG's deal is, but all right. Let me find my spot there. Okay. And I want to start this all over because this is a good paragraph. These covert tactics cause Drake harm. Stream manipulation, like UMG's purchase of fake streams on Spotify and other platforms, harms the artists like Drake who collect royalties through legitimate streams, because when there is a sharp increase in the number of proportional streams recorded on a platform without a proportional increase in the number of paying subscribers, there is a drop in the unit value of a stream, and therefore a drop in the amount of royalties paid to rights holders. That's a class action. That's what that is right there. That's class action, because now we're not just talking, oh my, damn, are they setting this up for a class action? Hold up. Gotta do my Nate Dogg. Gotta get my voice right in order to do it. Hold up. Wait. I didn't think about this. Yeah, there's class action potential there. And so Drake, in addition to whatever settlement he would get, he would also, if they try to certify this as a class action, but his is already continuing, can he be the lead plaintiff, which would entitle him to not only his damages, but a portion of the overall class action? I don't know how much that would be. Let me check that. How much does the lead plaintiff receive in a class action? Want to guess maybe about 4 to 7% pro rata settlement. At the lead pay, the higher amounts. So they say between 2 and 50,000. Though higher amounts have been approved. Time and effort. 15,000. The lead plaintiffs only get like 5. Let me see. Enron. Wait. Now, 2008, Enron fraud. The lead plaintiff, University of California, recovered billions for investors and had legal costs reimbursed. Well, he could also get his legal, he can get that paid anyway. So it may not be worth it for him in regards to the class action, unless you can use a class action to, I'm not going to call it extort, because that's a term of art in criminal realm, but you could use a class action to leverage a bigger settlement. So let's say Drake, I don't know what it is. Let's say that his number, I'm throwing some shit out there, it's $500 million, something like that. Let's say that's the number. You could use the threat of a class action to probably get another 250 million, something like that, maybe. I don't know if everybody, because itching, man, artists are itching to sue Spotify for something. So no love lost. And so I've been talking about this throughout the complaint. I've been waiting. And so now think about this. This is an 81-page complaint, 81 pages, all this background laid. They approved their case before we even get to the allegations. They proved the case. And what you do is once you lay all this shit out and you prove the case, then you use this phrase that I love. Plaintiff incorporates and realleges all preceding paragraphs as if fully set forth in herein. So that means you don't have to keep repeating shit, right? So you put all that in. It's already there. And now you could just get into the allegations, and you don't really have to reference everything over again. It's great. And I wouldn't expect them to do anything less. But what I'm excited about is that now it says what? First claim, defamation slash defamation per se. Plaintiff is a public figure. Defamation per se. I just want to say it one more time, because that means in and of itself, by itself, it's defamatory. And it means you don't have to prove damages. Only have to prove that the thing was said. Plaintiff is a public figure. UMG published and caused the publication of, participated in the publication of, and/or reasonably could have foreseen that its actions would result in the publication of a series of false and defamatory statements of fact about plaintiff, including by and through its agents, making the statements itself and republishing the statements on its websites and social media accounts as detailed extensively above. As a reasonably foreseeable and intended result of defendant's statements and actions, others repeated and amplified these false and defamatory statements. UMG intentionally made false implications through the false statements. The defamatory meanings of defendant's false and implied statements of fact are apparent from the face of the publications. Refer to Drake by name, often are accompanied by images of symbols, items, places, and other depictions known to be associated with Drake. We're talking about the owl and shit, and/or are reasonably understood to be about him. The statements UMG published about Drake are reasonably understood to state or imply that he, A, has a history of engaging and continues to engage in pedophilia and sexual relations with minors, B, engages in other sexual criminal acts, including sex trafficking, is a sex offender or engages in acts that require him to be registered as a sex offender, and harbors in his home individuals who are sex offenders or engage in acts that would require them to be registered as sex offenders. Now, when we get to this 13 people, I don't know who those 13 people are. They could it be anybody who's on the label? And I don't want to start throwing out names because that's associating people with those allegations, the defamatory per se statements, and that's unfair. But they could have, if this case, they could have a case too. Now, whether or not they were suing, I don't know, but they could have a case too. Now, where are we at? These statements and implications are false and okay. These statements and implications are false and defamatory per se in that they impute criminal activity punishable by law and damage Drake in his trade, office, or profession. UMG published, office refers to executive profession, could be him as CEO of OVO or what have you. UMG published these false statements with actual malice, i.e., with knowledge of their falsity or with reckless disregard to their truth. UMG knew or should have known that the defamatory statements, all of which are verifiable, were false, all of which are were and are false. So both, they're false and they're still false. That's important. UMG failed to assess or investigate the falsity of the defamatory statements despite inherent improbability and obvious reasons to doubt the veracity of the statements. Drake also made a public statement about their falsity and repeatedly informed UMG of the same privately. UMG had no basis to which to believe that the allegations were true and indeed knew them to be false, given UMG's long-standing contractual relationship with Drake. I don't know why that would make somebody believe that something is false just because we got a contract together, but all right. Sure. And continued to publish the allegations after learning Drake had disavowed the statements. UMG published the allegations, including by its publication of the misleading image and other conduct described herein, in a manner to create false inferences. UMG had financial motives for promoting the defamatory material. UMG endorsed and adopted the false allegations as its own, publishing and republishing and causing to publish and republish the false allegations for months with full knowledge of their falsity or reckless disregard for their truth. UMG had no applicable privilege or legal authorization to make these false and defamatory statements. UMG published these statements so that they were heard, viewed, or read billions of times around the world. UMG's statements damaged Drake's reputation in the general public, in his profession, in his professional life, in his personal life, in his neighborhood. In his neighborhood, really? I don't know if we have anything to suggest that his reputation was damaged in his neighborhood, but sure. I don't recall hearing that with friends, relatives, and neighbors. I don't know if that's true. Only the neighbors part. As a direct and proximate result of Drake's conduct, Drake has suffered significant general, actual, consequential, and special damages. Special damages are the best. Including without limitation, impairment of reputation and standing in the community and in his profession, personal humiliation, mental anguish and suffering, emotional distress, stress, anxiety, lost earnings, and other pecuniary loss. Problem with this, they did not state one thing that should be in here: loss of sleep. I do not see loss of sleep, and I would have put that in here. His personal mental anguish, suffering, emotional distress, anxiety, lost earnings, and other pecuniary. Damn, am I saying that wrong? Y'all know what I mean. You should add loss of sleep because you want the mental damages to manifest themselves physically. Yeah, that's what you want to plead. And I can't see how someone can go through this and not lose sleep. Yeah, I don't. So that should have been in there. UMG was aware of the ongoing harm Drake was experiencing, including because of news reports of the armed attack on his Toronto residence and Drake's private communications with UMG. Then we go to the next claim, which is harassment in the second degree. There's not a conclusion in that part of the claim, the first claim of defamation per se. I don't even know why defamation is there. It should have been pled as the second claim. I think you should keep them separate. Unless there's like a page limit or some shit like that, you might as well keep them separate. To me, that's kind of like lazy pleading. And I've caught myself in that where it's like, I would do something like that, but I would go back and say, okay, D, you gotta break this all the way down. And you want to have that other claim there for whatever reason. But I did like the paragraph. I did like the allegation itself. It was good. Yeah. All right. So plaintiff in second claim, harassment in the second degree. Plaintiff incorporates and realleges all preceding paragraphs as fully supported herein. UMG engaged in a course of conduct and repeatedly committed acts which alarm and seriously annoy plaintiff. Seriously annoy plaintiff. Okay. I'm not as familiar with harassment in second degree, so I would have to look it up, but I don't know if annoyance is part of it, but if it isn't, that shit's hilarious. If it is, that shit's hilarious. He is annoying our client. UMG published, promoted, and profited from a coordinated campaign to smear, threaten, and discredit plaintiff despite plaintiff's protests. Further, UMG has placed plaintiff in reasonable fear of physical harm. UMG published explicit threats and calls for violence against Drake. The defamatory material individually and collectively provide a call to violence against Drake. UMG has continued a course of conduct to promote these publications online and on radio airwaves and through public events and further licensing of the recording. UMG has done so despite being a major business partner of Drake, having knowledge of physical violence and threats at Drake's home, and being aware of Drake's public and private denials of the statements. That shit don't matter. Why are we acting like that matter, that they're partners? So is Kendrick. UMG, if I'm defending UMG, I'm like, they were beefing. We stayed out of it. We let a lot of Drake go too about K-Dot. They're not going to say K-Dot, because if you say K-Dot, you going to sound like if Sir Grange is on the stand and he's like, we let Drake say a lot of things about K-Dot that we want to say. You seem biased. But real talk, they did. So to me, it's a losing argument, or easily defended argument, or easily parried strike, or what have you. Yeah. So, yeah. Okay. UMG's course of conduct in publishing specific and unequivocal threats of violence has placed plaintiff in a reasonable fear of physical harm. Plaintiff security guard was taken to the hospital with serious injuries after a shooting. That's true. While its initial motive was financial, UMG lost any legitimate purpose to continue its course of conduct in the face of Drake's public and private denials. That's bullshit. No, they didn't. They still, if this paragraph is alleging that UMG's motive was financial and that was a legitimate purpose, they lost it when he denied it. I don't know. Cause I don't know if they need a legitimate purpose or not. I don't know. I don't really just necessarily like this claim, but whatever. Okay. I don't love it, but sure. As a direct and proximate result of defendant's conduct, Drake has suffered a significant general, actual, consequential, and special damages, including without limitation, mental anguish, suffering, emotional distress. So we're going to repeat that, and that's fine. But we keep forgetting loss of sleep, and that should be there. Third claim. And I could go back. I don't want to spend much time on that second joint. Yeah, I don't want to spend much time on that. Because I don't think, third claim. Plaintiff incorporates, you know what that means. Plaintiff is person within the meaning of New York General Business Law 349H. Defendant is a person, firm, corporation, or association within the meaning of New York General Business Law 349B. Defendant engaged in deceptive acts and practices in the conduct of business, trade, and commerce by covertly financially incentivizing third parties to play, stream, and promote the recording, and then by making materially false and misleading representations of the recording's popularity to consumers. What I like here is this is in New York, so we don't get into. Because this is New York law in regards to this, and it's happening in the state of New York, and they're applying New York law. Now it's interstate commerce, but you can do both. You can sue under federal law, you can sue under state law. But what I'm noticing here, New York has the right to prosecute anyone involved in this where it happens in the state of New York, regardless of the fact that it's happening across state lines. And we know New York likes to prosecute shit like this. So I'm curious. I like this pleading, thus. I like this part. Defendant engaged in deceptive acts and practices in the conduct of business, trade, and commerce by covertly financially incentivizing third parties to play, stream, and promote the recording, and then by making materially false and misleading representations of the plaintiffs of the recording's popularity to consumers. Yeah. This is because now you're tying your defamation to that. That's interesting. That's interesting. Yeah. Because when it gets to a jury, it's like, not only are you doing shady shit, you're doing shady shit and you're promoting something defamatory. Okay. UMG paid at least one third party to use bots to stream the recording on Spotify. UMG then touted the recording's number of streams on Spotify while knowing that at least 30 million of those streams were false and fraudulent. UMG also paid at least one radio promoter to engage in pay-for-play of the recording on New York radio stations. And this is what I'm saying, because I think right now, I think it was a congressperson out of Tennessee has indicated that iHeart should be, I don't know, it was something about iHeart and Payola in regards to performers being pressured to perform for lower amounts or something like that, like some type of but Payola was mentioned. I got to look it up to figure it out. But if these things as alleged in here, if true, seem like Payola, and if we're investigating Payola, based on what we're seeing here, you need to start with Spotify, is what's being said. A reasonable consumer of music would be materially misled by these deceptive acts and practices. Let me get this straight. These deceptive acts and practices were consumer oriented because they were disseminated to the general music consuming public and marketplace and had a broad impact on music consumers at large. These alleged deceptive acts and practices occurred, at least in part, in the state of New York. That's why they said that. See, yeah. Hey, this shit happened in New York. We know y'all like to be up on that. Here you go. Plaintiff was injured as a direct and proximate result of defendants' deceptive acts and practices on streaming platforms because each time the recording was artificially streamed, Drake's songs received a disproportionate share from the pool of royalties collected based on the streaming data. Plaintiff was separately injured as a direct and proximate result of defendants' deceptive acts and practices in the radio industry because every time the recording was played, Drake lost the opportunity for one of his songs to be played. That's real talk. Now, this is outside the beef. That's real talk right there. That is real talk. But how much does this go on? Because every artist can make this claim. I don't even know if they have to have a true possibility of their shit being played. I don't think they do. I don't think this particular, where we at? I don't think that's not only Drake. This does not belong to only Drake. I think any artist can make these accusations and would have a claim if this stuff is true. That's why I'm talking about class action. If this is true, any artist would have a claim. Plaintiff was, I want to start here. Plaintiff was separately injured as a direct and proximate result of defendants' deceptive acts and practices in the radio industry because every time the recording was played, Drake lost the opportunity for one of his songs to be played. Yep. By reason of the foregoing, UMG's conduct as alleged herein constitutes deceptive acts and practices in violation of Section 349 of the New York General Business Law, and UMG is liable to plaintiff for the actual damages that he has suffered as a result of defendant's actions, the amount of such damages to be determined at trial. Now, if you want to plus treble damages, attorney fees, and costs. Well, what is treble damages? Okay, let's break it down because I love some treble damage. If you can get some treble damages, treble damages, you hear the first part of it. It's Trey. Trey means 3. That means you get 3 times, 3 times what you should get. Yeah, typically in order to get treble damages, somebody got, and I'm going to keep it in layman's terms, you got to do some really fucked shit, right? That's really what has to happen. So you can get your damages plus treble damages. So let's say the damages is $500 million. Let's say Drake is somehow able to prove that. He can then, depending on how the jury feels, they can give you 3 times as much. So 500 turns into 1.5 billion. Going for 1.5 billion. That's fun. That's the fun part right there. But I love seeking treble damages. Plaintiff further demands injunctive relief, enjoining defendant from continuing to engage in, use, employ any act, including false statements of the recording success or other representations prohibited by Section 349 of the New York General Business Law. All right. I don't think they need to at this point, but okay, throw that in because they're not going to be able to enjoin Kendrick. And I give 3M props for not putting that in because there was a way you could have pled that they should somehow stop the performance or what have you of the song. There's a way, but they didn't. And this is good. Yeah, I like this injunctive relief. Now we're at the part where we call it the prayer for relief. Separation of church and state. It doesn't mean prayer in that way, but this is where you ask for the court to do something. And it's like the call to action in marketing terms. Wherefore a plaintiff, I love the wherefore. When you write it, you put wherefore in all caps. Never go back. Okay. Wherefore plaintiff prays for judgment against UMG for each of the causes of action raised herein. Plaintiff respectfully requests a judgment in his favor against UMG for nominal damages. Nominal damages is just the, regular damages, to be honest. Compensatory damages are meant to compensate you for the damage that you have actually experienced, including general, actual, consequential, and special damages in an amount to be determined at trial. And when you don't want to say, you don't want to put a number on it, it's continuing, right? So you can say this shit at trial. Plus, when I see that, though, I think y'all think this is going to settle too. I do. That's what I think. Punitive damages, reasonable and necessary attorney's fees, reasonable and necessary costs of the suit. I like both of those because they're not, and they say necessary, and they're limiting. So they're not trying to just, get off on the attorney's fees. That's it. One moment. I need to check something before I say this. Okay. All right. Okay. That's good to know. Okay. So when we're talking about nominal damages, where if you've ever seen, and I wanted to come back to this, an award where somebody wins, but they get $1, that would be a nominal damage. Not your actual what happened. That's the compensatory, the actual damages, consequential, general. Thus the actual damage. Nominal is just okay, you won, get a motherfucker. Prejudgment and post-judgment interest at the highest lawful rates. I like that. And declaratory relief stating that the statements published and promoted by UMG and those attributed to UMG as reasonably foreseeable republications identified within this complaint individually and collectively were and are false. That's almost like the apology. Yeah, that's like the apology. Injunctive relief enjoining UMG from making statements about the popularity of the recording, image, or video that it knows to be false based on fake streams or pay for play, and such other relief as this court deems just and appropriate. And that's it. Woo. So what do I think about this? Does this have legs? And I haven't seen UMG's answer anything yet, but looking at everything, hell yeah, it got some legs. If you take this to court, Drake could win. And he could win big. I do. So he could win big. If he's one of those people who's like, oh, I want to have assets of $1 billion or more, whatever. This shit here could put him over the top. It really could. And he could get 500 million out of this or more. It's entirely possible. Now, I don't know what UMG would even settle for. Because he could settle now. If I were to settle this, I'm not settling this shit signing nothing. The contract you got, UMG, is the contract you got. If I'm going to settle this, I'm going to settle. If he settled for 100 million, if he settled for 200 million, if he settled for 50 million, that's 50 more million on the contract that he already has. Then he gets to come back and negotiate if he even wants to continue to deal with UMG, after this. And I'm not trying to say UMG did anything wrong by putting out all these records. I'm not saying that. I would have liked if they would have stopped after the security guard got shot. Something should have happened. But in my opinion, something should have happened and it didn't. But as far as this lawsuit and the merits of it, it's got merits like a mother. It really do. It really do. The pay for play and payola allegations are good. The defamation per se is on point. I don't know if Drake lost anything as a result of the defamation aspect of the recording or just losing the rap battle. And you have to, differentiate between the two. But that the payola part, yeah. And it's defamation per se, so he doesn't necessarily have to be harmed. The only thing is it defamation per se in his case, right? Is it defamation per se in his case? I don't know. Because if people already had that belief or what have you, I don't know if it's defamation per se. So I don't know. But that being said, this shit got legs. And I'm going to take my time getting to to that other joint, but this has legs. The one problem with this complaint, and like I said, it should not have been in there. All this stuff about Drake being Jewish and trying to make it seem as if Kendrick Lamar might be anti-Semitic. All that is foul and fucked up and should not be in this complaint because Drake knows that Kendrick was not coming at him, calling him a colonizer because he's Jewish or what have you. No. If anything, that door got open when Drake said, you trying to save the slave. You always trying to save. When Drake, I think I have to be for sure, you trying to free the slaves, not save the slaves, free the slaves. Once you say that, of course, a nigga gonna call you a colonizer right there because I know how Drake meant that. Drake just couldn't say it because he's half white. He just couldn't say it. He could not say that. But if let's say, I wonder, because I can't remember if J. Cole is mixed or not, but let's assume, let me see. No. Okay, they said, chat told me he is not mixed. He is biracial. Okay. So that being said, though, if J. Cole says that, because it's J. Cole, we don't think that way. We don't think that way because, hell, I think we feel like J. Cole be trying to free the slave. We don't feel like Drake has ever tried to free the slave. And I think when it comes to the beef, that's part of the problem. You can't be like, even with Jay-Z and Nas, you can't be the flossy. The flossy dude is never going to beat the allegedly conscious dude. Because I'll put it like that. Because Jay-Z has some songs where I was like, that helped me, what have you, gave good advice or what have you. But the flashy dude, they're never going to beat the conscious dude in a rap battle. It's just not going to happen. I don't think Tupac and Biggie really had a battle per se because I'll hit them up. That was not like us. There was no nigga. Don't say nothing. After you couldn't say nothing, and so you can't. It's not gonna happen. It's just not gonna happen. You're not gonna do that. So I don't know I just don't know to what extent his reputation, damages, or whatever suffered because you just lost the rap battle. I don't know. But that being, also, let me get back to my point. He called you a colonizer because of that. It's not because you Jewish. We don't run around automatically calling Jewish people colonizers. Nobody does that. Nobody does that. I know. Israel, Jewish, not the same thing. Not the same. And to be honest, until was it last year when people forgot all about what was going on and what was happening to the Palestinian people, folk were not running around saying that. And I don't remember seeing that. I'm sure somebody said it, but that's not why Kendrick was saying it to you. And it shouldn't be in there. But beyond that, I like probably 90% of this complaint. And there's some really nice moments of really great drafting. Really great. So I can nerd out as an attorney on this joint, but also, just kind of, bring up some other shit. Now, that's how I feel about it. Court of public opinion, they hate it. Everybody hates this shit. It's a bag. And according to the court of public opinion, this is a loss for Drake. That's based on the complaint. So I haven't even got to UMG's answer, but not every single person. Of course, there are people who think like, no, it's cool, but most, no, they didn't. Same people who think Drake lost in the beef think that this is an L too. Now, that being said, if you think you got $1 billion lawsuit, maybe even more, you should take that shot. And not suing Kendrick is definitely, I like it. I like that touch of not suing Kendrick, because if you sue Kendrick, motherfucker, it'd be over. But he didn't. So that's dope. So we are done. And now we are on to new topics. I want to say I appreciate all the people who got through all 4 of these joints. And we're about to break. I don't know what the next one is going to be as far as the breakdown. I got a lot of things I need to touch on that's just happening in the world. And like I said, the court of public opinion is not just about taking the hot topics. It's about taking the deep dives, because oftentimes when things happen, we just move on, and we move on too fast, right? So let's go back and really get into some stuff. Really get into some topics and bring up those things that's like, oh, I didn't even know that happened. And going through this, there's so many things that happen that I didn't even know about, right? That change like how I see things. So in the meantime, in between time, read, learn. No, that's not why I don't have a sign off yet. I'm gonna have to get a sign off. But yeah, really, I just want to tell y'all to love each other. Be kind. As kind as you can, and if you don't have to choose violence, don't. But if you got to, I understand. With that said, peace.